Hello, it's Monday. It is the 25th of May. It's Teo van Dort, the executive producer of Time of the Sixth Son. In the window below, we have Time of the Sixth Son's creator, director, writer, producer, all-round glamour girl, Nicola Luna Williams. Glamour girl, it's not the wrong thing, isn't it, really? And over here, we have Mr. Glen Harrold, who's joining us from Portugal. Thanks, Glen, so much for being with us.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So, yeah, it's a bank holiday Monday here in the United Kingdom, and it's Memorial Day in the United States. Are there any holidays today in Portugal?
Not today. No, I never get to hear of them, to be honest. I'm sure they have them, but they're few and far between.
Well, we just as we wait for people to come in, Glen, I'm just going to bring up the slide that shows people where they can get your information. So Glen has got a website at glenharrold.com with 2 N's and 2 R's. And you can also go to facebook.com, glenharrold.fanpage. You can join him on Instagram for Glen_Harrold and youtube.com/user/Doctor of the Mind. And we're going to find out much more about that as we go forward. And as always, if you'd like to help to support Time of the Sixth Son, if you've not seen the movie yet, well, it's available. It's just $4.95 through the website. We've got an amazing digital access package, which is 19.5 hours of deep dive content, an 8-part docuseries that goes so much deeper into the subjects with lots and lots of the speakers from the film and more. You could also help to donate with our ongoing costs of doing these live broadcasts every week. And share the live videos with others. And all the links to everything I've just shown you are available in the description.
And so, where do people go to donate, Teo?
They go to timeofthesixthsonmovie.com, and there's a little donate button at the top of the webpage.
Perfect. I've just had a few people ask me, that's all.
Well, over to you, Luna.
Fabulous. Well, your suntan is far too good, Glen. I'm jealous.
It's one of the joys of living in Portugal. I'm blessed to live here. It's a lovely place.
Yeah, and a beautiful place to be in sacred seclusion.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's there's a nice community here of sort of like-minded, awake souls. So it's good. It's a very good place.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So where should we start, Glen? So you've told me a little bit about your childhood in the past, a not so happy childhood, and later hanging about with what you might describe as less than desirables, probably yourself being one of them. And I just want to know how you made that leap from that to becoming a hugely successful hypnotherapist in the world, Glen.
Well, it was, not the best of starts in life. When I was a young kid, I used to run away from home when I was 12, and I got kicked out of school when I was 15. I was running with a bad crowd of, other delinquent kids. And, it was, my home life was very dysfunctional. So that was I was a product of that environment. And I got into all kinds of mischief at 17. I drank myself into oblivion, and my liver packed up. I had hepatitis and, all kinds of addictions and anxiety issues and low self-esteem. And, my vibration was very low back then, and I didn't know any different. I just thought this was how life was. But it was years later that the one thing that I did learn to do was I learned to play the bass guitar. So it's back in the sort of punk days of the sort of mid to late 70s. And I learned to play bass guitar, and that kind of took me off in a slightly more positive direction. And I joined a band, and within a few years, we'd won a national pop competition, because suddenly I had something I could focus on, put all my energy into that. And we won the 1983 Battle of the Bands with Paul Gambaccini as the head judge. And it was all very exciting. For the first time, I had something that was really positive. And we won £10,000. Went out to the south of France. We were signing autographs. It was great fun for a little while, but it didn't last. We were kind of doing the sex and the drugs and rock and roll before we actually got famous. We should have at least waited till afterwards. So that was that. But then later on, I was on the cabaret circuit. And it was one night where I was sharing the bill with a stage hypnotist, and it was watching this guy do his thing that really sparked my interest in hypnosis. And from backstage, I saw the power of it. and it really intrigued me. And I recognized something in that that was that could be a tool to clear a lot of my own dysfunction. And so I was drawn to it for that. And, you know, I didn't want to do the entertainment thing. I didn't want to make people dance around like chickens and do outrageous things. It was about the healing potential. And from there, I did a 2-year diploma with the British School of Clinical Hypnosis, and I loved it. And I never looked back. I healed, you know, I started to heal a lot of my own issues and get clearer and cleaner as time went on. And, you know, and then because I'd come from that sort of, you know, the dysfunctional place into a much clearer place, I had then a good aptitude for helping other people, helping them out, because I'd been there, you know. So if someone came with an addiction or a phobia or whatever, low self-esteem, I knew what to do because I'd been there and got out of it.
So that's how you did it. Well, it's inspiring to a lot of young people out there.
It's amazing how many people do have that, you know, that incredibly difficult start in life. And, you know, there's that attitude of, well, you're never going to get anywhere, you're never going to do anything because, you know, you've wasted your youth. So, you know, where's that going to go? And I love hearing stories of turnarounds like that. And often, you know, that those you hear all the time, don't you, that people come from that really difficult space that actually end up achieving so much more because they've got that fire in their belly to prove something wrong.
It's exactly that. It was the fire in my belly that once I found the tool to get out of the hole that I was in, you know, through hypnotherapy and meditation and healing, I just never looked back because I was so fed up with the struggle and, you know, feeling like a failure. And, you know, it was like the catapult effect. You know, once I'd got on that path, I just, you know, went full steam ahead because I desperately wanted a different life when I was younger, but I just didn't know how to get it. I kind of thought I'd be stuck with it. So when I found that opportunity, I just took it with both hands, and, you know, I've never looked back.
Yeah. So there's lots of areas of hypnotism that I want to explore this evening. I know Taya's probably got some questions as well, but cultural illusions, they're everywhere, promoted by and normalized by the distortion of our lamestream media. And it's hard for people to know what's true and what's not. I know I keep coming back to this every week, but I'm interested in that discernment. How can we avoid being hypnotized by both social and cultural illusions? And when I say social, I'm talking about that story of Hollywood, that it got its name from the holly, the wood from the holly tree. And Hollywood, enchant and costs, spells and illusion.
Yeah.
Material, and it's very heavy.
Yeah, well, it's the talking point of the moment, isn't it? There's so much that is going on at the moment. It's such an amazing but a crazy time as well. And you know, I think that whole thing of, you know, being hoodwinked and manipulated and all that kind of stuff, it's just everywhere you look, isn't it? You know, you've got the government and the media telling you one thing, you've got conspiracy stuff on the other side, you've got counter conspiracy in the middle, you know, and it's sometimes hard to see the wood for the trees, isn't it? You know, what's real, because there's so much misinformation out there. But I think, you know, it's always the only way that you really guide yourself along the right path is to come back into your heart energy. And, you know, for me, if ever I go too deep down the rabbit hole, I'll pull myself back out sometimes and, you know, take a deep breath and then meditate, go inside and try to, you know, find where the truth is in what I've been looking at and what I've seen. And, you know, be guided by my own intuition and my own, you know, own inner guidance, because, you know, we've got that power and that amazing creativity and talent inside us. But it's through shutting down the conscious mind and going into that state where you're not thinking, so that you allow the truth to come up within you. You know, so that's the way I do it, you know, not to get too lost down the rabbit hole. It's good to know, you know, to have a good grasp of what's going on, but you can also get a bit lost in it all at times.
Our dear friend Martin was saying this afternoon, you know, how he said, ask Glen, how do we know if we're hypnotized? I said it's almost like finding the knot in the hanky that reminds me it is a dream or whatever.
Well, it's a really interesting one, isn't
And
it?
what can we do about it to reverse that
So when
spell, that hypnosis? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a really interesting thing, hypnosis, that's being pumped out by the mainstream or brainwashing or what, and what's that phrase? When you don't know that you don't know.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to get my head around that, but that's the thing, you don't always realize where your thoughts are coming from. A lot of the time people are, regurgitating things they're seeing online or they're hearing, or, it depends how hardwired they are into the matrix. But if they're really hardwired, they're just, regurgitating the government's narrative, and, they don't know that they're not their own thoughts.
Yeah.
So sometimes again, that's where when you go inside, you start to get the truth, and you start to be able to be more discerning. But it's, if that's a new concept to you and you don't really understand it, it's difficult. But yeah, I mean, I always go that route, go use self-hypnosis, use meditation to reclaim your power. And, because we have got so much power and potential inside of us, we really have. And, it's said that we're the only species on the planet that doesn't use all of our brain all the time.
Like
It's
3%.
probably not completely accurate. Sorry?
I said it's about 3%, isn't it?
It's not what it should be, But
So,
they say every other species on the planet uses most of its brain most of the time, but we've got this huge resource within us, the unconscious mind, that we tap into through, self-hypnosis, meditation, plant medicine. And that's where the genius lies. That's where our talents and our creativity and, how we connect with our higher self and our true wisdom.
So that's where we connect with our subconscious mind.
Totally.
I guess that's the other 97%.
And it's, going back to where I went, where I was at, in my sort of, when I got to 30, failure after failure, all my life struggle, kicked out of school at 15, no qualifications, to, where I am at now. I've been written 7 books for major publishers and done all these la-di-da things. It was through that work, that inner work, working on my inner self through self-hypnosis.
Yeah.
And doing the clearing work. There's no shortcut for that, because when you do that, you start to, naturally raise your vibration and become the person that you're supposed to be, without all the baggage, without all the conditioning that, bogs a lot of us down. And it did me for a long time.
So this global lockdown, it's given each of us the opportunity to take a deep dive into our own internal inquiry and identify what we've acquired from our parents, what we've acquired from society. So is self-hypnosis, like, obviously the work's never done, and I'm interested in really all our speakers, what their own personal process is. So is that how you work, with just constantly layering in new belief systems through self-hypnosis?
Yeah, it's an ongoing process, isn't it? We're all a work in progress. I've never met anyone who's the finished article. We're all on that journey, aren't we? And I've met some very wise and amazing people, but you see, we've all got an ego, and we're all here for, certain reasons. Our souls have incarnated at this crazy time to do some work, and we are heading into the age of enlightenment, or we're in it, at the start of it, certainly. And so there's that work to do. It's showing us that we can achieve so much in this lifetime because of the life we've incarnated into and the time that we've incarnated into. So, for me, I'll still be doing this work when I'm 90, because it's just peeling those layers away. And the more you peel away, the lighter you become, and the more life starts to flow. And, and I know I've got the example of, living life where I felt like I had diver's boots on. It was such a struggle, and I felt like I was never getting anywhere and hitting brick walls. So it's lovely now to be in a more flowing state is lovely. And I just want more of that all the time. I want to, can keep moving forward. And I've got a lovely lady who's on my membership site, and she messages me all the time. And, She's been listening to my recordings since she was 80, and she's now in her early 90s. Bless her. And she's always asking questions. How can I do this? What I want to do this. And she's my inspiration, because to be that deeply into self-help when you're in your early 90s
Wow.
is amazing, you know, and she's an incredible lady.
And they say remain curious. I mean, that's curiosity, isn't it?
Absolutely.
How does that work?
Never lose that. My kids, I've got 2 kids, 5 and 3, and they've got so much curiosity and wonder for
Probably
life.
too much.
Too much at times, yeah, definitely. But it's, you know, you should never lose that. You know, always try to connect with your inner child, your kid, you know, and kids help me do that. You know, I know it's the same for you, Tio. You know, when you've got kids, you get that, you reconnect with your own child, don't you? And I love sort of mucking about with them, playing with them in the garden, and just being a little kid again, because you connect with that wonder again.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Well, they live almost in that world of hypnosis, you know, that the medicine state all the time, don't they? I mean, you can just see them having those games and playing those adventures. And, you know, if we create a pirate ship out of a sofa, it's not a sofa anymore. It's a pirate ship. In their head, you can just see the way they go into that world. It's so magical. It's lovely to be reminded of that place.
It is. It is. And they're always mindful. They're always in a state of mindfulness. They're never worrying about the future or, you know, having regrets about the past. They're just in the moment, you know, wanting to have fun.
Yeah.
When I do that with them, I'm bang there. You know, I'm in a state of mindfulness, and you know, it's because that's the thing. You know, it's the one thing at the moment with so much going on, and you know, people get anxious about the future or they worry about the past. But you know, when you're in that deep state of mindfulness, you're living. You're really alive, aren't you? And life is good. There's no fear. You know, so my kids particularly are good for that. You know, great for anchoring me into that moment.
So I was going to ask you about through hypnotherapy, how do you create new neural pathways to replace the old belief systems that we've taken on, especially in days of such distortion? And I remember Carol, although it's not about hypnotherapy at all, but Carol, who edited our book, she suddenly was diagnosed with a very severe brain tumor. And she only had a few months to live, but she had a stroke. So because of the tumor, and she had to remind herself, like she'd been editing books all her life, but she had to remind herself how to lay out artwork and do everything all over again. And she told me that she would just do it very repetitive, and she would walk every day, even if she needed 2 aides to help her walk that mile a day. She would knit, she'd just do loads of things to reteach and open up those pathways again. But how do you open up or create new neural pathways in your work?
It's you know, for me, the first thing I had to do once I got on the, you know, therapy trail was to clear a lot of the conditioning from my childhood, because they're neural pathways as well. And for me, it was, you know, I was so racked with lack of self-esteem when I was younger. Yeah, the band that I was in, whenever we did interviews, I couldn't actually speak on the microphone. I was tongue-tied because my self-esteem was on the floor. And the lads in the band used to take the mickey, because we go in to do an interview and I would just say hello and goodbye. That was it. So that kind of gives you an idea of where I was at then. But through doing the inner work, I was able to clear a lot of that programming, those neural pathways that were telling me I was no good. And I think that's kind of an important thing. The clearing is as important as creating the new neural pathways. Because if you create new pathways that are incongruent with beliefs you've got in there already, then they're going to conflict, and you're going to maybe take, you know, 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. So the clearing work is as important as creating new patterns. And the way that you do it is, you know, through self-hypnosis, is allowing yourself to go into that really relaxed state. And if you're clearing something from the past, going back to that memory and re-experiencing it, and feeling the emotions again, because the emotions are often attached to the memories. And by doing that, you allow yourself to have an ab reaction and purge it. You know, sometimes if that's a heavy one, you need to be with a really good therapist to do that. You know, it's not always easy on your own if you're new to it.
Yeah.
But you can do it for little things. You know, there's little things you can do. So once you've done a lot of that clearing work, you can then replace it with positive new beliefs and create new, really strong neural pathways. And you do that by compounding. So the more you do it in that state, when you're in a state of self-hypnosis, the stronger it anchors itself in your unconscious mind.
So like affirmations.
Affirmations, yeah. And when I first learned hypnosis and meditation and the law of attraction, I was doing gigs in bars and clubs, and I was driving a minicab through the West End at night. And in downtimes when I was not working, I'd be doing these affirmations. I was reading people like, back in the day, Stuart Wilde and people like that who were, I still love his early work. He was really powerful. And I was doing these affirmations, over and over again. I'm always in the right place at the right time. Abundance comes freely and naturally to me. All of my needs are constantly met. And I'd literally say that over and over again. And I worked at it day in, day out. I was using self-hypnosis every day because I was making progress. For the first time in my life, I saw the results and I just wanted more of it. I got really hungry for a new life and I immersed myself in it. And that's the thing, I always say to people, if you want to create a, fit, healthy body, you need to work out, be active and, be really disciplined in that way. And it's the same with the mind. If you want to create a really positive, powerful mindset, you have to do the same work. You have to put in the effort. And it really works that way. The compounding effect with affirmations and that inner work, there's no shortcut, but it's so powerful, and it's something else.
I went through a time where, I still have a lot of dental work to do, and I'm the worst patient in a dentist chair. I would be pouring sweat before I even sat down, shaking like a leaf.
Yeah.
And from the night before, I would have my affirmation, I will experience no pain or discomfort at the dentist today. I will not experience, and I would say it hundreds and hundreds of times. And I'd sit in the chair totally chilled out and relaxed. It works. It absolutely works. Yeah.
Do you know, it reminded me, I had a client once who had such a chronic fear of the dentist. And it's not uncommon, our generation, because dentistry when I was a kid was brutal. Do you remember they used to have those machines? They'd start. Yeah. And it would be, as soon as you heard the sound, you'd be in a state of terror.
Even in the waiting room, you could hear it, couldn't you?
So you'd be panicking before you went in. I had this lady,
getting yourself into the wrong state.
I know. Well, this lady had such a chronic fear that and she hadn't had any dental work for 10 years and her teeth were literally rotting. So, and every time she got to the dentist chair, she literally had this massive panic attack and run out. So I did a session with her and it worked well. She responded to the suggestions and I gave her a suggestion that when she would be in the chair, she'd think of things. I can't remember exactly what I did, but it was about creating a feeling of humor. Because humor and anxiety are incompatible states. So if you're feeling something that's funny and you want to laugh, you can't feel the anxiety. So we did this session. It worked well. She said that she went off to the dentist, sat in the chair, he started up the drill and she burst into laughter. Mouth wide open, and the dentist couldn't believe it because he tried to work on her a million times before and she'd run out screaming. Now she's sitting there killing herself laughing. So it was an unusual technique, but it did the trick and she was fine afterwards. She was able to
laugh when you've got a load of dentist tools in your mouth.
Yeah, I think I can't remember what the suggestion I gave her exactly, but that's the power of it though. You can have this program running that's, a deep imprint from your childhood that you can clear in literally, one session, 1 hour session.
Yeah.
And it's that's the real power of it. And it doesn't work every time with each person. Sometimes people step into new patterns of behavior over time. It's a gradual progression. But sometimes if you can get to the heart of the fear or phobia or whatever it is, you can, change it really quickly and easily.
Mm. So I was thinking about when you said you'd love to come on the show, I was thinking, wow, you see what is held in the deep recesses of the minds of the masses. So I wanted to ask you what the most common deeply held feeling is. I mean, one would say, I would imagine it's fear. Fear is the greatest thing, but what's the largest thing that comes to you?
I think that's it at the moment, isn't it? Fear. There's so much fear around that people are, struggling to, think about the future or make plans because, and that fear has, it can have a knock-on effect, can't it? With, we're all connected up, aren't we? The unconscious, we're all linked up. Carl Gustav Jung, that was his work. We're all connected, and if we're all feeling fear en masse, that's a powerful worldly emotion that's around at the moment. So I always say it's an obvious one, but the mainstream media is just pumping it out all the time. It's just constant. So, and I find if ever I turn it on now and you see BBC or Sky News or one of them, it just sounds like a noise to me. I can't even look at it.
I start singing the Gayatri mantra.
Do you?
La, 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 la.
Yeah, well, that's it. It just doesn't make any sense when you've been away from that and you've stepped out of it. And so I think that's the thing. Avoid all that news, and and even with the other stuff, where you go down the rabbit hole, it's there's some, it's good to be aware of the stuff that's going on, but it's also there's a lot of fear in that, isn't there? Because we don't know who's gonna win out. Hopefully it'll be the good guys. There's this battle, isn't there? There's a battle on this planet, dark v light, at the moment. It comes down to that, and I believe the light is a much more powerful force than the dark. And that will win out. That's going to win out because there's plenty of us on the planet who are investing in the light and have done for a long time, and that force is growing. When people do these group meditations en masse around the world, is it the Schumann resonance where you can actually measure it? And that's powerful stuff.
Hugely since the 1980s. It was 7.84 hertz, but it's much higher now. I don't actually know where it is, but I think it's definitely doubled and more.
Glenn, you'll like this, but I remember when we launched the movie for the first time ever on April the 24th, 2019. And on April the 25th, somebody wrote to us to say, did you see the spike in the Schumann resonance yesterday? They went, I wonder if that's because of the movie. Because we had, 10,000 people, I think, view it the very first day. And that would be lovely to think that, wouldn't it? Because it's all about the evolution of our consciousness, the raising of our consciousness, and dreaming awake. So
it had such a powerful impact. Yeah, it had a powerful impact, doesn't it? I remember when it went out, and I had friends that were saying to me, wow, I've just seen the film, and there was a real buzz about it, wasn't there? And so it absolutely, it opened people's hearts up, and it's a film of hope, isn't it? So that, when collectively a lot of people feel that, it's a powerful energy.
Planting seeds.
Luna, you've got some really great, because I know you've got some really great questions here, but we've got some things that I think would be great to just get out now, if that's all right. Some
absolutely
early questions, because I think it will lead to a better conversation later on. So this is a question from Audrey, Glenn. She says, how would you differentiate between hypnosis and meditation?
Yeah, that's always an interesting one, because they're actually the same states. When you're going, from full waking consciousness, which is 14 brain cycles per second, the beta state, down to alpha, which is a typical meditation state, theta, down to delta, in those two states, your brainwaves are operating the same way. There's no difference there. For me, meditation is more, more of an open-hearted, open-minded thing, whereas hypnosis is often something I've used for goal setting and for, healing issues and phobias and anxiety issues, that kind of thing. But there's no difference in the two states when you're in, down in the alpha or if you're theta, and everyone goes into different levels of, down into different levels. They say that 20% of the population will go into light trance states very easily. 60% will go into a medium depth trance state, which is the alpha state, and then 20% are somnambulists who go into very deep states very quickly and easily. And I've seen in my private practice where sometimes you say a few words to someone and they're gone. They're in a very deep state very easily and quickly and but it's not always necessarily how deep they go. It's more about how receptive they are to taking on board suggestions.
Mm.
And so, because sometimes, even in a very light trance state, I've had clients who've come back up and they've said, oh, I don't think I was hypnotized, and I say, well, how long do you think that was? And they say, well, it's 5 minutes. And then you show them a clock and it's 45 minutes and they think, oh, wow, something did happen. And also they come back 2 weeks later and they've stopped smoking, from that one session. So it's more about how, with a client, you get them into a state where they're receptive to take on the suggestions and really anchor them in their unconscious mind.
So with those 4 states, though, the brain is slowing down. There's a very definite scientific definition between beta, alpha, theta, delta.
Yeah.
Where the brain slows right down. I used to do inversion therapy. I'd turn people upside down, hung from my feet. And the same with chickens. Anything in a magic show where they hang the birds up their sleeves or in their jackets upside down, so they absolutely don't move. They're in a state of delta trance.
So yeah,
that was released from the magic circle. One of the secrets.
Right. Yeah, because animals can be put into trance states with certain things. I know a dog, if you hold a dog in a certain way around its neck, you can put it into an instant trance state. I've never tried it, but I've never done it.
Quite handy, Glenn, for you is great white sharks. Because I remember watching this program, this Discovery Channel program years ago called Killer Beast. It was a killer whale versus great white shark. Which one would win? And They basically filmed and they tagged this. I'm going to keep this really short, but in essence, what happened was the great white the killer whale would always win, because the killer whale knew that if it came up and butted the great white from underneath and turned it on its head, and then it could hold it upside down, the great white becomes absolutely prostrate. Doesn't do anything. Right. Can't do anything.
So in a state of hypnosis.
In a state of hypnosis. That's how killer whales hypnotize sharks. Now, I bet nobody knew they were going to learn that tonight.
That could be a handy technique if you ever swimming in Australia. I did once swim in the ocean in Perth, and the shark siren went off. I was 25 meters out, and the great white shark was 50 meters out. And I've never swum back to the shore so quickly. It's throwing children behind me. No, everyone got out really quickly, and no one panicked. Actually, the shark siren went off, and we all swam out fairly calmly and coolly. But that was a bit of a moment.
On Day Beach, I experienced the same thing.
Did you?
So, we were talking about fear. Do butt in with any more questions, Taya. But we were talking about fear. But fear's fear. Mm. When you dig down, what is it? What's the most common thing? Is it fear of death? Is it fear of losing our freedoms?
It's a fear of loss, isn't it? Of losing. Yeah, I think at the moment, losing our freedoms, losing our security. That's it. It's a fear of loss of the life that we feel comfortable in and we know. And it's a very powerful emotion. And I experience it, even having done the work for 25 years and being in a really good, happy place where I'm at now. Sometimes you can read something or someone will send me something and you look at it and it's like, oh my God, mandatory visa coming out, and you think, oh my God, I've got 2 young kids, and I get into that fear thing, it suddenly hits me and that emotion comes up, but then I never stand it for long. I know not to get lost in that. That's the thing. If you find yourself going down that road, bring yourself out of it. Go for a walk in nature, go for a jog, do something different, go to the beach, take yourself out of it and breathe, and know and trust in higher forces, and the knowledge that, we're here for a reason. As I said, we're here for a good reason. We've incarnated into this world of dark and light, and we're here to be a force for good. Positive force.
I think that's the thing to remember, it's the choice is victim or what's the opposite? But we are here by choice. You're
Yeah.
totally here by choice. And I think that really takes you out of the victim when you go, oh yeah, I was here to do something, wasn't I? What was that?
Yeah. The victim mode is, again, it's one that you can slip into. Your mind can drift into that. You know, why has this happened to me? It's so unfair. And, you know, we all do it from time to time. And I think, again, the key is not to wallow in that, not to get lost in that and bring yourself out of it. Or, you know, again, self-hypnosis is the key to that, because when you drop down into that state, you're not in the monkey mind. You've not got that mental chatter going on and it's driving you crazy. You get step into a much more empowered state. And, you know, what I always do, if I do group meditations or anything like that, I always work on the heart opening, you know, going into your heart chakra and imagine your heart opening. Maybe I can do that a bit later. You know, it's because it's such an empowering state, just stepping into it, even for 10 minutes a day. If you do that inner work and clear away all thought, you know, let the monkey mind disappear for a while, breathe slowly, drop down into that peaceful Zen state, and you come back recharged. You know, that's the equivalent of a couple of hours sleep.
Yeah, and I guess that the opposite to fear of loss is gain. So
Yeah.
actually, what am I getting out of this experience? Yes, it's scary. Yes, oh my God, you know, authorities are really scary when they might come and take us from our houses. But actually, what we're gaining is so much more, you know, which is clear view into how everything is working.
And also, you know, it's a really exciting time in a lot of ways, isn't it? Because, you know, the world's going through this amazing transformation. And, you know, all the dark stuff is also being exposed because there's more light. It's bringing everything out into the open. And, you know, so the darkness of the world is more visible now. So a lot more people are seeing what is really going on. And, you know, to take it in a slightly different direction, plant medicine does that, you know, where you know, ayahuasca in particular, where you go very deep with that and, you know, the shadow becomes visible and there's this, and then you have this purging experience. So it's the same kind of thing, you know, it's the darkness being illuminated, which is a good positive thing.
Do you want to talk more about that state that we go into when we take plant medicines?
Yeah, that's you know, something that I was really called to probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. I was really, when I first read about ayahuasca, I'd been on the healing path for a number of years. And the shamans say that the medicine calls you, because ayahuasca is medicine. It heals you and it helps you to expand your consciousness and takes you on amazing journeys. And when I read about it, I just was so called by it that I was going to take a trip down to Peru. I was really wanted the full authentic experience, and it wasn't quite as common in the West back then as it is now. But by chance, I met someone who was running ceremonies in Ashford, of all places, in southern England, and I went down there, and he'd spent time down in the jungle in Peru. And he knew all the Icaros. He'd immersed himself in the culture there. The medicine he used to get coming over was unbelievably powerful. I've never experienced anything like that first session. It was off the scale. You know, it was so powerful. And because I was so ready for it and primed, I had the first 3 hours of that first ceremony was in an absolute state of bliss, where I was visiting these higher dimensions and seeing crystal palaces and animal spirits, and this amazing knowledge was coming to me, and I was just utterly in a state of bliss that I've never experienced at any other time in my life. But then after about 3 hours of that, bang, this darkness came over me, this shadow, and all of this stuff from my past and past lives, and it all came up at once and hit me like a ton of bricks. And I, you know, when that happens, you vomit, you purge. And I did a lot of that, you know, and so I went from this state of absolute bliss and heavenly realms to the darkness and the shadow. But I knew I'd researched it before I did it, and I knew that was part of the process. And I actually felt like I could die on that first journey. It was so incredibly powerful. I felt I could step out of this life if I chose to at that point. But it's, you know, I realize now it's more of a death of the ego.
So did that help you by working with medicine yourself? Did that help you with your psychotherapy, hypnotherapy work,
Yeah, it
in your
really did.
understanding of the subconscious of mind better?
It really did, because I just felt a lot clearer and cleaner after those sessions. I had a number of sessions back then. I experienced it a number of times, and every time I could almost feel I was getting lighter and clearer, and it was such a amazing feeling. I went back and back, and so when I was working as a therapist with clients, I felt my energy was much more powerful, because I could, really focus intently. And I always remember I had a friend who came down from London for a session soon after I did one of the ayahuasca sessions, and he said to me, he said afterwards, he said, the energy I felt from you was unbelievable. I think I was right in the heart of it. And he just picked up on this powerful energy. He said it just blew me away. And so for a time I felt, I just was very, very connected and very clear. And I've done that with, whenever I've been to like healing retreats and places where, you're just fasting, or I spent 4 months down in Panama in the jungle with a shaman down there working on healing, and we fasted down there, and we were working with nature spirits every day, and had 4 months with, no TV, very little online or anything like that. And I felt so clear and clean after that. I remember flying back to London into Heathrow and getting on the M25 and just feeling the heaviness of the UK. It just hit me like a ton of bricks coming from the jungle in Panama to that. It was so heavy. And it made me realize, that it took me a couple of weeks to get back into normal life in the UK after that. So again, whenever you take yourself into those places where you do a lot of healing and a lot of work, there's a shift. You experience a shift, and it can, it impacts your everyday life when you come back into the normal world, so to speak.
The real world.
The real world. That's the real world for me. The jungle.
So Terence McKenna, he once said that culture is a mass hallucination, and it stems from our massive disconnect from source. So and our true authentic self. So I guess medicine in that way is really productive.
Yeah, because it takes you back to the truth.
Yeah,
it takes you back to who you are. You really are. I remember in one of those early ayahuasca ceremonies that I had this experience. One of the things that kept coming to me was I kept seeing myself as like this showbiz version of who I was. And I remember it really clearly. It was like I was standing in front of this big mansion, fancy car, and I had like perfect hair. My teeth kept going ping, like this white sheet, this smile. And it was like this showbiz person. And I'm thinking, and it was me. I'm thinking, what is that? I'm not like that. And I was arguing with myself. I'm saying, I'm not showbiz. And it kept coming back to me. And it was, what I understood later on was that it was showing me a version of myself that I could become if I let my ego get too fluffed up. And at that time, I just signed a major publishing deal with Orion, a big publishing deal. And I'd won in with McGraw-Hill in the States. And they were taking me down this sort of, Glen Harrold brand path. It was, I was sitting around big boardroom tables and we were having discussions about Glen Harrold brand. And it was alien to me because I was just a guy who made hypnosis recordings that sold well. And suddenly I was in this corporate world and it didn't resonate, it didn't gel. And, so that was it. So the medicine was showing me this showbiz Wally that I could have become. So how powerful is that? How amazing is that? I understood it later on.
What do you think? Why do you think your recordings have become so powerful and sought after? I mean, 10 million, that's a lot.
I just think I was lucky enough to find my true vocation at a point when, I was looking for something different. And because I'd done the healing work, the clearing, and also because I'd had the musician background, I knew how to make recordings that were, the therapy side of it was okay, and the technical side of it was okay. And I think I was just in the right place at the right time a lot of a lot of the time. But that was one of my affirmations. I'm always in the right place at the right time. And I've always been very, very lucky. You know, I got onto even Insight Timer just recently. You know, I've had 6 million listens on there, 6 million views, and 130,000 followers. And just by chance, they got in touch with me about 3 years ago and said, would you like to submit a couple of free recordings? I thought, oh, that'd be nice. So stuck them up there, and hey ho, 6 million plays later. So I've also been very fortunate at the right time and met the right people, and you know, but it's about that flow state. You know, it's about aligning yourself. Alignment. Yeah.
So Glenn, do you think you create your own luck? Because I remember when Darren Brown did that TV program about these people that were like, they consider themselves to be the unluckiest people in the world, and then he gave them the placebo, and then suddenly everybody, you know, their lives changed, their lives turned around, and he was filming them, and then, you know, you'd see them a week later. How much part does placebo take in people's change of mind state? Because obviously hypnosis is a tool to do it, but how much do you believe that it is hypnosis and actually going into that subconscious, or how much is of it just changing the neural patterns?
Yeah, that's a good question. I used to love Darren Brown stuff. He did some amazing shows that really demonstrated the power of the mind and what we can achieve. I think the placebo effect certainly plays a part. And I heard a statistic once that said, you know, 33% of people who go to the doctors get well just because they're there.
Yeah.
So I don't know how accurate that 33% is, but there's certainly something in that. I think, you know, belief is something that plays a massive part. You know, if you believe you can do it, you can often. It's, you know, your mind, you engage your mind, you engage your subconscious, and you can do it. The placebo, I don't know. Sometimes it feels more powerful than other times, and you know. But I think again, you know, the anchoring of suggestions in the unconscious mind is the real powerful part of that. You know, if you believe they're there, if you believe they're working, that's also an aspect of the whole. You know, the focus, the goal setting, and where you're going with it. So it's a powerful part of it. I don't know how much of it, you know, I'm a firm believer in suggestion and affirmations and what they can do when they're truly anchored in your unconscious mind. So, but the placebo X is obviously a part of that as well.
I just find the whole subject so fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, Darren Brown, he was a master. His shows were just amazing. Some of the things he got people to do. You know, and that one where he got that guy who thought he was assassinating Stephen Fry on stage. Did you ever see that one?
No, I missed that.
It was a really interesting one because he gave him a suggestion that when Stephen Fry did something on stage, and he kind of built him up to it, he primed him for it, so that he'd give him a suggestion. And this guy had obviously had a fake gun, but he thought it was a real gun, and he had to take Stephen Fry out. You know, it's a really good one because I don't know how he managed to push the envelope like he did, but he did some really edgy stuff that.
It's a bit MK Ultra, isn't it?
Yeah, well, exactly. But he did it in the form of entertainment.
Yeah.
On mainstream TV, and you're not allowed to use inductions on mainstream TV. It's just totally banned because.
What are inductions?
So where you take people from normal waking consciousness down into their hypnosis state, you know, you're actually taking them down into a state of hypnosis. You're not allowed to do it on mainstream TV. It's banned for obvious reasons, because if you do it en masse, you know, some people can respond really strangely in their living room, and as a therapist, you've got no control over that. If you're, he was able to do things and bypass those rules and regulations. And maybe he hypnotized the TV execs when he was in the meetings. Because he did some incredible stuff. I'm trying to think of, he got away with murder.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm interested in, you know, in real life, just how much are we hypnotized? I think probably a lot more than we imagine. So do we call it hypnotized? Do we call it, you know?
The B word?
Yeah.
I think it is. It's a state of hypnosis, you know, because if you're given suggestions through the media or whatever it is, and that's that war on terror. That was a good example. They were pumping that out all the time for a couple of years, and red, amber, and green, and all that stuff. They were using all kinds of techniques, hypnotic techniques, to create this state of fear in people. And how do I say, for those who didn't buy it, they could step back and see it clearly. But people who didn't, who read the Daily Mail every day, and they were plugged into it and couldn't see it, and they believed what they're being told, and then they're regurgitating it. I've got older relatives who are like that, and even as a hypnotherapist, I can't unplug them.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I try sometimes, but they think I'm nuts.
It's so subtle, that red, amber, green. So subtle. It's so ancient.
Yeah.
Snakes who have red zigzags on them or whatever, to keep away from that.
Yeah, exactly. They know what they're doing. They do.
It's current programming of the new normal, 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 the new normal. It's just like, hello, wake up.
Yeah. And have you ever seen those people put those things together, and they're on every TV station, and they're all saying exactly the same thing?
Operation Mockingbird, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, that's the probably the biggest danger at the moment, isn't it? Or has been for a long time. The media and what they're putting out, and they're using it. It's weaponized, really. If you want to be totally honest.
Yeah, but a certain rather large personality in the United States is he's certainly calling them out on it, though.
He is, isn't he? And that's another great example. How people are so divided about who he is and what he's doing. I've got friends who loathe him for a passion, and you say, well, why? Or why? Well, he's like this with women. He does that. He does this, and we think, well, yeah, that's just the media that have told you that. Look at what's actually going on.
Yeah,
it's a very divisive thing. He's very egotistical, isn't he? He's got he doesn't always do himself a lot of favors because he's clumsy at times. But there's so much going on. You can't imagine being in that position.
No, you can't. So that the media went to town on him, saying inject yourself with bleach.
Yeah.
Where, if you have any sort of understanding of this, that's not what he was referring to. And then 2 weeks later, he comes out to say that hydroxychloroquine is the cure for the COVID.
Yeah,
and that's what he was talking about. And
there are plenty of
and using these incredible things you can use, which are very very homeopathic doses of bleach that clean your entire system out, kill all the parasites, kill all the other bits. We're by no means giving any medical advice here, but if you start looking into these things, there's some fascinating things out there, and I believe that he is pushing this out. He is actually waking people up. I'm going to earn a lot of money out of that, and they're not going to like it.
No, and it's amazing, isn't it? That it was. I was going to say something. At a point, it's a really interesting thing, that, isn't it? That he was completely going against the mainstream narrative in saying that. And how the media completely twisted it around and made it into something else. I don't think he explained it particularly well, which didn't help. But that's probably the only sort of head of state you've heard that's not talking about using the V word. Mary's talking about an alternative remedy for this thing that's going against the establishment, and that's so powerful, isn't it? And so you kind of get excited when you see that. And and then I sent it to some friends thinking, well, maybe they'll see this, but no, it's Trump's the enemy and all that. And
it's about division, though, isn't it? Everything's about division. It's like it's that, and is that the game?
Divide and rule, isn't it?
Divide us on such a level that you end up with fighting. So the polarities of every single thing that we are talking about, and that you're reading in the newspaper, or if you read the newspaper, or if you're seeing online, but it's so interesting because you post something on Facebook, and the difference of opinion you get, and these are right, no, I'm right, no, I'm right, and it's like, well, it's quite
extreme, isn't it? Yeah.
We've seen it on our own Facebook page, the infighting, and it's like the beauty of doing all these contrasting interviews with really very different people is that everyone has a different perspective, their personal take on what's going on in the world, but they're all right. It's really interesting. There are many perspectives, and there always will be.
You've always got to step back from your own.
Against each other right now. It's very clever.
Yeah, divide and rule, isn't it? Yeah. You've always got to step back from your own ego, haven't you? Especially online when you get into these battles, and because your ego can sometimes then get stoked up because you think you know the truth and this person doesn't. So then you get into that battle, don't you? And then you're lowering your vibration, you're getting doing exactly what they want, arguing with other people, because the world is just arguing at the moment, and it's such a shame. So you've always got to step back out of your ego and not think that you've got all the answers, because no one has really at the moment.
I have two absolutely perfect comments here on the right hand side before they disappear. One person, lovely Pamela, who was with us this weekend, she said he's acting as a mirror in, and I don't know how to pronounce this word, cyclistic effect. Not sure what that is.
That's a new word.
Saying, I was told Trump has shares in that drug that he was pushing, so I don't know. Already you see it, these opinions. It's like, did he, didn't he?
Yeah, I know. I've heard good and bad. There's bad things. I think, in an ideal world, Marianne Williamson would have rose straight to the top. She'd have got in conscious, enlightened. We'd be living in a place of love. But she didn't last long in that sort of the system, because it's a cesspool. It's an utter cesspool. So you need someone arrogant and brash like Trump, who's got a massive ego, to get up the ladder and do what he's doing. And if he is on their side, we'll find out.
I'd like to put that question to everyone. Imagine that Trump never ever has sent a tweet. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? That actually someone else has been doing his tweets all this time. Suddenly it casts a very different shadow on it.
Who knows? It's hard to believe anything completely at the moment, isn't it? Because there's so much misinformation and confusion.
We're watching. So, I've got one more question to ask, unless you've got something burning there, Teo, and I can ask afterwards.
I've got some great questions coming in, and if you've got more questions for Glen, just ping them into the comments, whether you're watching us on YouTube, where there's the majority of people are watching, on our Facebook page, where the second majority is, or in our Facebook group. You can just write it in the comments and we see it in one big feed down the right-hand side. So you are welcome.
I'm just going to ask really one last question, well, maybe not last, but one question about sound healing, about the solfeggio frequencies, Glen. And I work myself as a sound healer. Teo's worked with healing sound. So for people who don't know, these frequencies were found encoded in the King James Bible in 1611 or something, from the Book of Numbers. And then it was rediscovered by Dr. Joseph Puglio, and then brought to the wider attention of the world by Dr. Len Horowitz. And he wrote a book called Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse. Both men played their part in returning these lost frequencies back to humanity. So as I understand it, from my perspective, each frequency carries its own quality. And probably the most well-known one is 528 hertz, often known as the love frequency. But in about 1,000 years ago, a Benedictine monk was using 528 hertz for teaching chanting. The Benedictine monks would use it for calling in the name of the divine. But now, 1,000 years later, or 10 decades later, our biochemists are using it for DNA repair.
Healing,
for broken DNA. It's extraordinary. Wow. So that's just one of those solfeggio frequencies. So can you tell me how because you have a whole series of your hypnosis tapes with various things.
Yeah.
Just tell me briefly about that, because I think that's really powerful work, that and your binaural tapes as well.
Yeah, so with Ali Calderwood, who's a very gifted musician, who's actually got some music in the film, hasn't he? His music's in Time of the Sixth Sun. Yeah. We got together and we just learnt about the solfeggio frequencies, and we decided to make a series of meditations based on those the six main tones. And to give you an example of the tones, 396 hertz, which is the first tone, the monks used to chant that exact frequency to dispel feelings of fear and guilt. So it's a really powerful frequency, and obviously the 528 hertz is about heart opening and healing DNA, repairing DNA. So they're very powerful frequencies. And so Ali created the music. We scripted a series of meditations based on each one of the tones, and we put them together. And so between Ali and myself, we created these recordings, and we put them out there in the world, and we do get amazing feedback on them. We really do. And even Dr. Len Horowitz, he wrote to us or emailed us and said, I've heard a lot of these solfeggio tones. He said, but yours are bang on the money. They're at the exact frequency. He said, most are not on 396 hertz or 528. He said, but yours. And he even used to buy the CDs of us at the time when we first released them, and he'd sell them on his own platform. So that was, that was an endorsement that we were on the right path with them. And we get some lovely feedback on those because they've got the power of the frequency. They've got the meditation, and they've got Ali's amazing music. So the combination of those three things created alchemy with them. And, you know, they can be transformative if you're ready for that, you know.
So those can all be found. You've got a massive library, by the way, everyone. Huge library where you can find everything, whether it's confidence, self-esteem, anxiety, fear, whatever it is. But there's some very powerful meditations on there.
Yeah.
So where do they go to find your library? Just onto your page?
So the main way that we sell the recordings are through the App Store. So we've got an app called Relax and Sleep Well, and that's available on the App Store. We've had it around for years and years, and it's really doing well. It's flying. So
that's something I hear from a lot of people about, that they're finding it really difficult to sleep, myself included at this time. My clock just seems to have gone totally out, and I'm wide awake at 3 and 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
I always hear birds come up. Trouble is, I'm not getting up and going to sleep.
With that particular recording, I've now got 6 free recordings in there, and there's the actual title of it, this Relax and Sleep Well recording. It's a recording I made probably 15 years ago, and it's a very simple one where I use certain sounds and certain music just to guide people into a very relaxed state and off to sleep. And it's one of my more basic recordings, but I get so many people saying, oh, that helps me to sleep every night. I need it. It becomes a crutch for people. So
I can give you a life story, Glenn. My mum was going in for an operation, and she was really, nervous, and so I went to stay with her for, the day before, and then for a few days afterwards. And we got onto your app. I said, oh, there's a guy in our film. I said, he's hypnosis. And we downloaded your app, and she put the app on, and she put that meditation on, and I went downstairs, and I came back upstairs, and there she was in bed.
Fantastic. I love that. It's one of those things. If you're open and ready for that, it can work really simply and easily, because it just takes you out of your mind. It's only the monkey mind that keeps people awake, worrying about the future, the past, and all these thoughts, thinking about what you've got to do tomorrow. But it's so counterproductive.
So do you think that is
Theo? That was your mum?
It was my mum, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I love that.
So thank you.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So do you think that's what it is, the reason people can't sleep, or is there something else, electromagnetic forces affecting us, or is it just actually worry and fear?
I think that's an element of it. There's obviously a lot of different reasons. We're all guilty of being on our phones too late, on devices too late. It's probably my biggest thing now that I need to work on, because it's so easy, isn't it, just to carry on working until you shouldn't, up to 11 o'clock, and then you can't switch off because you're wired. So if you really want to focus on sleep, you've got to prioritize it. Say that after 9 o'clock, no phones, no devices. Your bedroom. A lot of people's bedrooms, they come to me for sleep problems, and you chat to them, and they tell you that their bedroom's represented like an entertainment center, a big plasma TV on the wall, hi-fi system in the corner. Well, no wonder you're not sleeping. You've really got to prioritize it, and your bedroom should just be for sleep. And so thick curtains, sleep in absolute darkness, as quiet as possible, and prioritize it. No food or drink after 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock if possible. And think about the importance of it. I always know myself, if I get a really good night's sleep, I wake up feeling $1 million, jump out of bed. It's great. It's a great feeling, but often we don't prioritize it. So it's that. But the radiation thing, I mean, I've got these things in the house that negate radiation. I'm not too sure the technology or the science behind it, but I trust the people who created it, and we do sleep well in this house. You know, so I
Yeah,
think
for years I've used. I switch off my Wi-Fi.
we do
I
that.
switch off
Yeah,
my phone onto airport mode, unplug the mainline phone, so absolute quiet, sleeping mask, and I
yeah.
have an ionizer. An ionizer is a massive thing.
Mm.
It really ozonates, not ozonates
That's the
Ozone.
one.
all the negative ions, and I always sleep so well with that.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, are we going to go for? Are we going to go for more questions, or are we going? Glenn mentioned that he could do a 10-minute meditation. What do you feel, Tay? Or do you want to just do questions and people can then go to your site and have a listen to some of your meditations? What do you think?
I'd love to do a live meditation.
Shall we do it, Glenn? We've got time, and then
10
we can still got
minutes.
time for 10 minutes.
Okay,
We've got time for
make it short
questions
and
after
sweet.
that.
Just to take people out of their minds and get into that still and centered space.
Yeah, nice.
So what to do now? Just take a few very slow, deep breaths and
Glenn,
close your.
sorry, Glenn. I'm going to take us off the screen so that they can just concentrate on Glenn, and I'll bring us back in when Glenn's finished.
Okay. So what to do now? Just take a few very slow, deep breaths and close your eyes. And if you're sitting in a chair, just feel your feet on the floor. If you're laying in bed, just feel yourself becoming very comfortable. And just take a few very slow, deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. So you create a slow, deep, circular breathing motion. Just breathe very slowly and very deeply, and just imagine the air coming in through your nose, down into through your airways, into your lungs. And just breathing away any stale air with every out-breath. And if you've relaxed like this before, just allow yourself to drop down into that state where you become very still and centered very quickly and easily, just through your breath. And with every out-breath, just breathe away any stress or any tension. Any cares or worries, just let them go. And allow yourself just to relax. As there's nothing for you to do now. Nobody wanting or expecting anything. You just breathe slowly and deeply. Breathe away any tension or any tightness. And allow your mind to become very still and quiet. And just feel yourself relaxing more and more with every slow, deep breath. Letting go of any tightness or tension in your body. As you can feel every last muscle in your body just relaxing so completely. Any traces of tightness or tension, just breathe them away. And allow yourself just to let go completely. And drop down into that very peaceful state. A place you've maybe been before. Where you're very still and centered. And peaceful. Just continuing to breathe slowly and deeply. Feeling very safe and secure. as you just allow yourself to go deeper still, clearing away any unwanted thoughts. Just let them drift away. And you can almost imagine a cloud in the sky, slowly drifting across a blue sky, and then evaporating into nothing, so that you're left with a clear blue sky, a clear mind. Just enjoy that feeling of letting go and being very still. Enjoy the peace. And the feeling of being very centered and calm. And in your real power. And I want you to imagine now your heart chakra in the middle of your chest. And just imagine this energy center opening. And projecting a feeling of love out from your heart. And if you think of someone you love unconditionally, connect with that feeling you have for them. And project that love out from your heart in all directions. And you can imagine sending that love to anyone you choose, any person, place, or situation, or even yourself. As you deserve all the love that you're generating. Just continue to feel this energy growing stronger and clearing away any fear that you may have felt. Just allow this love from your heart to transmute any fear. Any fear of the future, any fear around what's going on now. Just imagine this love transmuting that fear into light. Just take a moment to do this. And I want you to know this feeling will stay with you. This process will continue. Now your heart's open in this way. You will continue to dispel fear and rise above it when it comes along, in whatever form. And you will feel so much stronger in yourself, so much more heart-centered in everything you do now. And that feels so good, so rewarding. And anytime you close your eyes and drop into this state, and you open your heart in this way, you will be back in your power and be able to overcome any difficulties, any fears, any anxieties, and feel very good in yourself. And on top of things, even for 10 minutes, you can do this and become empowered again. So you just remember to close your eyes, breathe very slowly and deeply, drop down into your heart, and project this feeling of love onto any situation, any person, or even yourself if you need to. And you will stay in that power and build that power the more you do this. And this feeling will stay with you, but for now I'm going to slowly bring you back to full waking consciousness. So when you hear me count to 8, you open your eyes. At the count of 10, come wide awake. So ready now. 1, 2, 3, you're waking up. 4, 5, 6, waking up. 7, 8, open your eyes. 9, 10, you're wide awake. Wide awake. And really shining from your heart still. That will stay with you. So that was 11 minutes. So it was a short version of what I normally do. I had to speed it up in places.
I was totally gone.
I was gone. I actually forgot what I was doing. I was like, oh, I've got to get us back on.
It's such a simple thing, isn't it? You know, 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, and that habit, it builds a great momentum. And, you know, out of a 24-hour day, if you did that 10 minutes each day, you're not going to be feeling a lot of fear.
Yeah. Nice. Woo. Forgotten all my questions now. Have you got any, Taya?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It was lovely.
You're welcome.
I know everybody went deep.
Relaxed.
I know everybody went deep because at 9:06 there was a comment, and at 9:17 was the next one, so it all stopped. I think everybody. Jessica says that was amazing. I went so deep. Maria says I cried at the end. Audrey said lovely. Val says beautiful. Mari's there's something different. Renee up in Scotland says thank you. So thank you for sharing that with us, Glenn. That was lovely.
You're welcome. I love doing it. You know, it's something that's just such a nice thing to drop into, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, let's go back. 8:37. There's a good question here. I'm just trying to find it. Here, let's bring this one up from Cheryl. Glenn, she says, is fear from one of your old beliefs that were formed by family or society?
I think I would say a combination of both. For me personally, I grew up. So did the lady mean me personally?
I don't know. It's hard.
From a personal point of view, I think I grew up in quite a fearful environment. You know, I was on my own a lot as a kid in lots of different times. So I had a lot of fear from my younger life, and and it was obviously society. There's a lot of fear in the world, isn't there? So I think if you've got the family stuff going on and you've got the stuff in the world, it's quite a potent combination. So it's really more important than ever to do that inner work to combat that. Because if you've got fear coming at you from all angles and from your past, the work is more powerful than ever. I've actually got talking about the solfeggio tones. The very first tone is about Gregorian monks used to chant that tone, the 396 hertz, for dispelling fear. And so when the lockdown started, I put up I did a new mix of it and put it up on YouTube. It's 3 hours long, and people can listen to that for free. And it's about letting go of fear, and and you don't have to listen to the 3 hours, but it's, if you tapped into that for half an hour every day, that's a good way to release it. Using that little technique, it's good. It's something that's so needed.
I was part of a team when we did the 528 hertz concert around the world in 26 countries, I think. I was in Jerusalem, and it was the same weekend as the Jerusalem hug. So it was mega powerful. And I had taken my 528 hertz fork with me, and I didn't want to carry loads of heavy forks. So the other one I took was oot, which is the bass frequency, 396. And I found myself one day, basically, I was just tapping it everywhere. There's so much tension in the streets in Jerusalem, especially in the old city, with so many different religions there. It's a bit like a little melting pot. So I was just banging the cobbles on the streets and the stone on the walls. And there were several of us doing that. And it was extraordinary to see, arguments just dissipate before your eyes,
Yeah.
I sat there one day and I was thinking, why did I bring this with me? And on the tops of my forks, I have coloured metal spheres. So it's turquoise blue metal on my 528 fork. And I was looking at the 396, and it had a golden knob on it. I'm holding it up, and right next to it in the distance is the Temple Mount Dome, which just looks exactly like my fork. And I just suddenly got that you can't just go in there doing 528. If it hurts, you have to go in first and clear that fear and doubt. Then you can go with the fork. So it was such a lesson for me,
And again, it's about, our unconscious. If we're holding fear in the unconscious, but you're doing, positive affirmations that are contrary to that, if you haven't done that clearing work, there's a conflict, which is why it's important to do the clearing work along with the, implanting those new suggestions and creating those new neural pathways, as we said.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that they experimented with various meditations. And I always remember that one they did in Brighton, where they focused love on the town centre. There was a number of meditators that got together, and for a few weeks before, they focused on projecting love to the town centre. And they actually, the crime rate actually went down by something like 33%.
Wow.
It was a huge jump. I've heard there's been a number of those kind of experiments. It works on. We did that global meditation, didn't we, about a month ago at the start of the lockdown. It was 3:45 a.m. or 3:15 a.m. at our time. And we set our alarm and we got up and did it. And it's powerful. And it's when you're doing that en masse, it's so powerful. And that's it's one of our weapons in the light, isn't it? One of the things that light workers can do.
Yeah. And Lynn McTaggart's work with the intention experiment and the field, those two books that she wrote about mass intention and how you can clear bodies of water and things, it's quite astonishing what we are able to do with our minds when we're all together.
Yeah. It happened to me. It wasn't Darren Brown. It was the other big guy who was doing stage hypnotism. If you say his name, I'll know it.
Not
Darren Brown.
Who? McKenna?
Paul McKenna. And it was the last of his shows, and he did an experiment. It was the last one in the season, and he took round a bag, and people picked out 6 balls and one for the bonus. And he said, okay, these 6 numbers in the bonus for the lottery, everyone focus on these numbers come the weekend. You don't have to buy a ticket, not selling anything here, but just focus on these numbers. And 4 out of 6 came up, and I had different permutations, so I won quite a bit on it. And that was when they stopped the automatic £10 payout, because so many people did it.
That reminds me, that's amazing.
It's very powerful.
We did something at our office. Go on, Nikki.
Just to finish that, behind my house, at Plawhatch Manor, used that for a year as the filming place for the lottery to be drawn. Bizarre thing to do. They had the whole cruise down there every week. And I was thinking, I'll just get some of my mates around and we'll tune into them all down there.
Well, that was close, wasn't it? You could have drawn that over, couldn't you? It was only a few hundred yards. We did something similar a number of years ago, probably, I don't know, 15 years ago in my office. It was a time when I was selling a lot of CDs, and we had about 10 staff working for Divinity, and there was 6 of us that meditated on the lottery numbers. And we really, I was really into the law of attraction at that time, and I was working on it. And so 6 of us picked a number each for the lottery for next week's. And we were visualizing it and really projecting this energy out. And I was kind of doing a little meditation with everyone. We got 5 right, and we won 1,600 quid. When I think of it now, it's mind blowing. But we won that 1,600 quid, and the 6th ball, it was a lady who picked that one. She wasn't really part of the team. She was the cleaner, and she wanted to come in, and she picked that last ball, and it was 2 numbers out from 7 million quid.
Wow.
And so I didn't.
What are you telling our audience, Glenn?
But that was incredible. Yeah, 5 numbers.
Oh, imagine the good you could do with that sort of money.
Yeah, that was it, but it showed me the power of the mind, and the energy that you can, when you're in a group, what you can do. I don't know why we never did it again, or maybe we did.
Do an experiment. Why don't you give us 6 numbers and we'll put them out to the group
right now,
because it's about the focusing, not the picking.
So 6 numbers.
6 numbers.
So 3, 11, 17, 33, 45. What does it go up to now?
6. Oh, 49, I think.
49, is it?
I think so.
48.
Okay. All right. We'll do something, whether this week or next week, on those numbers. We'll do it Thursday. We'll do it Thursday for Saturday. There you go.
Brilliant.
Well, for anyone listening tonight, those numbers, if you write them down, Glenn said 3, 11, 17, 33, 45, and 48. But the point is what we make of it. You don't have to buy them, but just when the lottery is drawn, let's do an experiment. Let's mega focus.
We're global. So you're going to have to say this is for the UK.
Yes, sorry, this is for the UK lottery.
Euro Millions covers Europe, doesn't it? So would that be a better one?
Yeah, Euro Millions. Yeah, there we go.
Euro Millions is good, isn't it?
Is that 6 numbers or 5?
And if they come up, we'll have to do something really good for this time. Something.
We'll put it towards something amazing to do with
new schools or something.
Okay, Euro Millions this coming Saturday night.
This Saturday, that's it.
Do they do 5 or 6 numbers? I have no idea.
6.
6. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't done it for years, actually.
No, 5. Okay.
I'm just going to check, because otherwise we're going to be focusing on the wrong thing. 1, 2, 3, 4 is 5 and 2 bonuses.
2 bonuses, yes, and they're between 0 and 11, or 1 and 11, are they?
Oh, I know you're asking me questions.
2 and 7.
Don't say that. That's what they were last Friday. It was 2 and 7.
Was it? Oh man, so I'm regressing.
Okay, well, we need one more number, and it needs to be. We've already said 3. One more number between 2 and 7.
2 and 7, 5.
What?
5.
Okay, so 5 and 3 are the bonus numbers, and 11, 17, 33, 45, and 48. Euro Million.
They've got a winning feel to them, haven't they?
They have.
This kind of time of the 6 sun energy. Put that out there. We'll do some amazing good with that.
Well, we'll continue this discussion on and ask people in coming shows how they want to use this money.
Yeah.
Good ideas.
I'll tell you what, let's try win it first.
We've got there's a lot of confidence here, isn't there?
I hate to be the practical businessman here, but let's.
You do need the money in the bank first, don't you, really? Before you make the plans.
There we go. What
I always
fun.
remember we've actually got a picture of the 5 of us in the office with the 1,600 quid holding it, all of us. I'll have to post it sometime.
That's an amazing story, and I believe it 100%.
Yeah.
So you have to put your hearts into it. You have to put everything into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've really confused people now, because it's 5 numbers and 2 bonuses. So Anyway, we'll put it. We'll put a post up in the Facebook group, and if you're not a member of the Facebook group, then just join it, and then you'll be able to see it.
Show has descended into
How we've ended up with this. Pamela said, "How about if we win, we send out tuning forks for the entire world?"
That's a good cause. It's definitely one of the things we could do.
I think everyone should have a 528 tuning fork in their medical house, home, family medical kit, and 111 hertz.
Definitely.
My favorite.
Oh,
Glen,
that was fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna put
It's my pleasure. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you.
I'm gonna put all your links into the page there now. And whenever you're looking for any of these links, you are able to just find them in the actual description of these live chats that we do. But let's bring Glen's information up here. So if you'd like to support Glen, you can go to glenharrold.com. He's on Facebook as well, glenharrold.fanpage, Instagram, Glen_Harrold. And if you go to youtube.com/user/Doctor of the Mind, then you will be able to see Glen's got so many videos on there. He's got 17,500 subscribers to his YouTube channel. We're only at 5, Glen, so I'm a bit jealous, but but I'm going to set the intention. We're going to build that aspiration up.
It's 17,000, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, and that Doctor of the Mind, that was something I thought up when I first opened a YouTube account. It was a funny name I used, and it's kind of, you have to stick with it then, don't you? So I could never change it.
No, you can't change it. You can't change videos either.
No.
And and just to close, so if you'd like to support, if you're loving these live broadcasts, we're getting so many beautiful emails from people each week saying thank you for all these live chats. As an example, just to run our email software each month is costing us $550. And that's just one part of it. We've got the website, we've got all these other bits and pieces. And so if you can support us just by renting the movie, if you've not seen it, there's a digital access package where for just $67, you get the whole lot, 19.5 hours of content. All of that time, that effort, that work that Nikki put in, traveling to 16 countries over all those years. We've taken the very best interviews and turned it into an 8-part docuseries. There's audio CDs in there you get to stream. There's the transcripts. There's MP3 files of everything. You get a 120-page ebook. So go and have a look at that on our website. And if you've already got that and you'd just love to give us a donation, I mean, we've had some beautiful donations from people. Some people donating $5. We had the most phenomenal donation this week, 3 figures. We're so grateful for that because it really does help us. And if you can't do any of those, just share the live videos with other people and keep spreading the word about Time of the Sixth Son. And we're so grateful to you, Glen, for coming on and giving up your Monday evening to share with us.
It's my pleasure. I always loved the film. From the first time Nikki played me the film 10 odd years ago, I just loved it. It just had an amazing resonance to it. And, I was really honored, you filmed me in your office that time, and I've got a part in it. It's just an amazing film, and it deserves to be out there far and wide. And my wife, Nicola, she hasn't seen it, so we're going to rent it tomorrow night. We've got, obviously you sent me the CDs, but our DVD packed up and we just haven't got around to play. So we're going to watch it again. It's a brilliant film, and it should be sent.
We'll send you the digital package tonight, because you should have had that if you had the package. All our speakers we've given that to. Teo will sort that out later.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
And then you very kindly sent us some links as well of mindfulness for releasing anxiety, relax and sleep well, let go of fear.
Yeah.
Are you all right for anybody that makes a donation or buys a digital package that I can send those out to people?
Yeah, please do. Please do. Use them on your site. Yeah. So if someone donates, give them the recordings. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. And
we are putting one of those, Teo, into the digital package as well. Anyone who buys a digital package will get a couple of those, and the rest will go in.
And they're good for helping people sleep at night. The mindfulness meditation for anxiety, that's on Insight Timer. That's been listened 4 million times, I think. Right. So it's a really popular one. So that's, if anyone donates to the film, they can have that recording and go to sleep with it. So it needs to be, people need to donate. So that's fantastic.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you very much. It's really kind of you.
You're welcome.
People in this time, you know, it's fantastic, those recordings.
Yeah.
Love you, Glen. Thank you so much.
It's my
babes.
pleasure. It really
Thank
is.
you.
You're welcome. And I hope to see you out here sometime in Lagos in Portugal. I know Nikki
Yes.
is talking about it. And Theo, you're more than welcome to come out. And
Oh, it sounds lovely.
It's
His
a great
boys to
idea. When
your
the
boys.
plane's flying again.
My boy's a very good babysitter. Look after your 3 and 5-year-old, because that's a tough time.
It is very full on. Yeah.
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 All right, I'm going to end this broadcast. Glenn, you can stay there, and we'll just thank you privately. Just 1 second. So good night, everybody. On Thursday night at 8 p.m. UK, sorry, 8:15 p.m. We go later on a Thursday because at 8 p.m. everybody's out in the streets celebrating and thanking the NHS for all the work that they're doing. And we had a lot of people say, "Why do you start at 8 o'clock? We want to be out there too." So we start at 8:15 on a Thursday, and we've got the Caroline Carey coming back, who has just released her new book, Middle Earth Medicine. And if you didn't see the live that we did with Caroline earlier this year, I think it was January, wasn't it? She was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So that's a treat. And she's
not just brought out a book, she's brought out her entire deck of shamanic cards, which are amazing, with a book that goes with it. So she's actually just released 2 books and a divination pack of cards.
Wow.
I'm really excited about,
Well, we'll share that with you, but I'll put up the link so you can join the stream. And remember, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, there's always a little button underneath where you can click get reminder, set reminder, because I don't know if your mind's like mine, but unless I remind myself to do something, I'm like, oh, I missed that. So you don't want to miss it with Caroline on Thursday. So with that, from Glenn, Nikki and I, we bid you good night. Thank you so much and stay safe.
Night.
Good night.